What model building enthusiasts or aviation fan doesn't know it? Richthofen's little triplane. There are many depictions of the aircraft, and both man and machine are famous under the pseudonym the Red Baron. And as always, there are a few things that are not really true and that should be mentioned. I'm not referring to the pseudonym Red Baron, which only came into use in English-speaking countries after his death because there was no equivalent title for the German Baron in English, which was a Freiherr, but rather to the aircraft itself. First of all, the triplane was only one of the aircraft types that Richthofen flew. He achieved most of his successes on other types of aircraft. The practice of painting his aircraft red began with those aircraft already. The French called him Le Petit Rouge, the little red one. Richthofen did not fly just one Fokker triplane, but a total of 6. There was 102-17, 114-17, 127-17, 152-17, 425-17, on which he eventually fell, and 477-17. Only 425-17 and presumably 477-17 were painted completely red. All aircraft in the fighter squadrons were delivered from the factory in their standard camouflage paint scheme. This was part of the contract and acceptance negotiations in the construction and delivery specifications for army aircraft. There is no evidence that aircraft were ever painted in advance in specific colors at the factory for individual pilots upon request. This means that all squadron colors and personal insignia or markings were applied by the men in the field themselves, either more or less neatly over the markings and insignias or more or less neatly around them. In the case of the triplane, there was the additional circumstance that while it was at the front, the iron crosses had to be changed to bar crosses, the straight-sided crosses, which was also done more or less correctly and properly. For Richthofen's famous triplane, that is 425-17, this means that it was repainted several times and in stages. All military acceptance numbers, serial numbers and other markings were more or less painted over. Most depictions of the aircraft with these markings over the red are therefore incorrect. How do we know this? We know this from preserved pieces of fabric, large and small, which are still preserved in various collections worldwide and clearly show red paint over the underlying remains of the camouflage paint and markings. There are many fakes of these pieces of fabric because collectors are willing to pay huge sums for a piece of Richthofen's aircraft. Probably enough fabric fakes are around to cover several triplanes by now, but there are also remnants that have been clearly identified as originals, all of which are identical in terms of workmanship, color, composition, color structure, material and the dope used to tighten the fabric, which is not the case with the fakes. Often the dope, camouflage paint, boat varnish or fabric is simply wrong.